So this has been a wonderful opportunity, because this is really like one of my biggest like bugbears, and one of the things that when I came into the sector has been bubbling away inside me. So this is the first time I've actually been able to kind of splurge out kind of all my thoughts and reflections around this topic. So why small charity trustees have got to get involved in fundraising. And I like to have that little quote, because I use this quote now all the time whenever I'm doing work around fundraising strategy with charity leaders. This is my kind of quote, and I particularly like it when I'm having to present fundraising strategies back to boards with the CEO, because it's like, just to remind you, successful fundraising charities recognize that everybody's got to play a role in supporting fundraising. And guess where that comes from? A handbook literally written by all the big people players in the sector. Okay, so like I'm not like, it's nothing new. This is just kind of, just a reminder. So anyway, you're thinking, who are you, random Amber Shotton person? I'm a small charity consultant. But, first of all, no, for that, I've got to remember to say, don't forget, there are other wonderful things happening during Small Charities Week this week. So there's some more sessions this afternoon, and then there's obviously tomorrow as well. Some really cool, exciting stuff tomorrow. I think, Wayne, you're involved as well, aren't you? Like a panel and all that kind of good stuff. So continue to share, but also the recordings are going into onto the Small Charities Week website. So there you go, and keep your eye on that. So who am I? My background is was originally in the corporate world back in the late 90s. I was business development, partnerships, and also some operations, and sales operations, sometimes it was called. And I've worked across a whole host of different sectors, so property and facilities management, welfare, justice, education, health, particularly like really key bits. I loved stuff I've done work in prisons, which I absolutely loved, and social justice, basically. I'm like a big one of them, fan of those. And so I then moved into the charity sector, working with and in, so originally kind of doing some volunteer work and supporting organisations like the FSI, and then they kind of grabbed me in, and I've worked within the sector for the last 10 years. I left FSI a couple of years ago, but have continued to be in the sector supporting what we do. Jack of many, and I would say master of none, but probably if I was a master, not that I'm saying like I'm a master, like I'm a big master, but statutory tendering is probably where I have my greatest experience over the last 20 odd plus years. That's from doing multi-million pound PFIs back in early noughties through to working with small charities and getting, being awarded to join frameworks and things like that for their local authorities. I've supported charities from governance and leadership, fundraising, impact evaluation, IT, conversation that Ray and I and Wayne were having a moment ago, project management, through to, and I've delivered consultancy. And I am a freelance associate for Fair Development, so the lovely Vic Hancock and her wonderful team, the collective, also Lloyds Bank Foundation. I'm an enhanced consultant, and I also trained for the Association of Chairs. Gosh, it's a lot, isn't it? Anyway, but this session, the mission, should you choose to accept it, to get what I did there, is to get boards involved in fundraising. It is totally part of my DNA. So as I said, in a previous life, I lived in the corporate world. And so this whole kind of not being involved in fundraising just is a bit like, oh, well, so you say what? Like, I don't understand that. It's not my language, because I come from this kind of corporate background. And the other thing I would say is, for those who maybe have seen me deliver training and support before over the last kind of 10 years, I rarely tap into what the business or corporate world does. I always try to give examples of small charities, possibly large charities, as an example. But in this space, I want to just give you a little bit of I want us to kind of throw a lens on some of the corporate world, and then to help us to then think about how do we get our trustees involved in fundraising in the going forward. So this is the world in which I came from. In a previous life, one of my first jobs in the 90s was I worked for Xerox. And I was part of something called the National Variable Earnings Centre. Gosh, we're going back. And part of my team was part of my job as an administrator of a team, a sales team, and I used to kind of sort out their pay, their variable earnings, which was linked to the sales and what they did. Yeah. This group of people were nurtured, loved, supported. Sometimes I say they're like the kings, of the whole organisation. The reason why you see all these pictures here thinking, why is there a yacht and why is there an award and why is there looks like a nice like conference and a holiday or something, because that's the kind of stuff that they got for all their effort and energy into promoting their organization, promoting the products and services they sold, and by doing a great job, that's the kind of stuff that they got. So why? I don't know, and please, answers on a postcard or answers in a chat function, you are, more than welcome to, why do you think that is? Any thoughts? It's all right, I've got answers on the next slide. If you don't have any thoughts, you might be thinking, what are you talking about, Amber? But just to say, so they were salespeople, what have you, bringing income into the organization, were absolutely, because they generated lots of sales. Yes, they generated lots of income into the organizations. Are we starting to see where I'm going here with regards to this is kind of like the corporate, what we're doing in the charity sector? So why? I'll tell you why. After some extensive research, because I wanted to not just to kind of back this up with kind of my experiences and my views on this, but also what do the clever people, say and think about this? Well, here you go. So the Wilson Learning Global Group, McKinsey, I think I've even got some Harvard Business School in here. So what does the business world say? So they say that corporate governance is the set of rules and practices that a company employs to direct its directions and actions. Since these rules are dictated how a company reaches its decisions, corporate governance processes have a significant impact on the company's performance. Right. So I think I don't understand that. So basically, the governance of the boards and the governance that sits within a corporate has a direct correlation with how successful its financial impact is. And according to surveys, directors see good operations and effective execution of key board activities having a strong link to their reported performance. So how well they're doing, how they're improved. And therefore, it's really important that there is value from really successful boards. Okay, do we see where I'm going here? So there's some other stats. Companies with strong governance are 29% more efficient at generating profits with the financial resources allocated. They're 43% more efficient at selling their products. Yeah, so this is why they're really good at kind of looking after this group of people that go out and bring income into their organizations. They kind of see, and why they see it's important that the governance behind that also helps to drive this. Okay. A bit more. This is a Harvard Business Review, a couple of extracts there. But likewise, they talk about kind of the sales process and about effective sales leadership. If we're thinking about the charity sector, leadership is coming in from our boards, coming from governance. Okay, so they're saying high performance income generation is driven through good processes and structures. So we need to have good structures in place to help drive that income, and good leadership and mentorship. So having a first-hand experience of sales. Okay, so they're saying that their sales leadership has a real handle on this. And I'll read you what they say. They say successful sales leaders embrace dual roles. Firstly, they recognize that effective sales leadership involves supporting their salespeople in executing the entire sales process. And these sales leaders can keep current on the status of the opportunities. They provide support they provide guidance. They're there through every step of the process, but without overtaking control. It also says that effective sales leaders recognize that salesperson's environment is filled with tremendous ups and downs. I don't know if anything is resonating with you. Win a big sale or an account, the salesperson feels on top of the world. Lose an opportunity, then that salespeople feels like it's the end of the world. Effective sales leaders know that a major part of their job is dealing with this emotional turbulence, providing salespeople with focus and direction, and creating an effective sales team. So corporates understand that we need good leadership to support those bringing in income into the organization. Okay. Other successful contributing factors is, delve a little bit further into the anatomy of this sales team, that the greatest sales teams are united in a common purpose, that they understand that the mission vision of the organization and aligning their efforts to that broader goal will help them. That there's the clarity of purpose fuels their motivation and inspires collaboration and drives that pursuit of excellence. Talent. So building a team of great talent to support their sales activities. That investing in continuous training and development programs to nurture this team's skills and keeping them ahead of the game and equipping them to navigate any complex changes in the landscape. Strong leadership. So again, plays a pivotal role in shaping the team. That the sales leader provides clear direction, fosters supportive and empowering environment, and leads by example. Yeah, so they're doing the doing as well as supporting those that are bringing the income in. They inspire their team. They help them to set achievable goals, and they provide the necessary guidance and resource to drive success. Collaboration. So again, income. So in this context, greatest sales teams thrive on collaboration. They cultivate an environment of trust, respect, and open communication. Team members share knowledge, best practice, and learn from one another's experiences. They embrace diversity and they leverage each other's unique strengths. Coming together and creating this cohesive unit to go out there and bring the income in. Customer-centric approach. So again, they think about how important the value. Great sales teams understand that their success hinges on providing value to their customers. Okay, that's probably a slightly different dynamic to us in the charity sector. We need to ensure we think about ethical fundraising practices. And I think the examples that were raised earlier by Martha in her session was a really good example. But it's all about listening, understanding, creating those, building trust, forming lasting relationships. Yeah, so understanding that they are data driven. Yeah, so they were supported by data to make decisions. So, data is really important. Again, something that was repeated by Martha earlier. And they use that information. They leverage the analytics and the metrics to help them to gain those insights. Again, is this something that we can be doing? They use it, says here, to challenge their leadership, to challenge actually what in reality is going to happen as a result of the data that we've had. We've done all this, but this is happening. Therefore, we might have to think about changing what we're going to do. Resilience and adaptable. So sales is not without its challenges, and the greatest sales teams possess resilience and adaptability. They view obstacles as opportunities for growth and innovation, and these teams quickly adjust their approach and learn from setbacks and continuously improve their methods to overcome obstacles and drive success. Okay, so that's what our corporate peers are doing over there. Yeah, so we can understand this is why they were doing all that stuff that I was like, why are they sending them on holidays and why are they giving them awards? Does that sound sensible to you? Yeah, I don't know. For me, income is income. Yeah. So corporates are looking for income to drive profits. We're looking for income to help us to go out there and do amazing stuff with our beneficiaries and our service users. So whether you're a statutory organisation, whether you're a charity, whether you're a FTSE 100, whether you're a small business, doesn't matter what the name is, it's about driving income. And all that stuff I've told you before is why and how some of our corporate peers are doing well. They have good governance that is helping to support their income generation. They have leaders. They're bringing everybody on that journey when it comes to income. And this is my reason behind why it's important for trustees to play a role in fundraising. Yeah, it's just another name. Bringing income in, generation, business development, fundraising. Okay. If there was not another reason why they should not be involved, and actually I forgot I had that, but absolutely what's really important, yeah, they all have to bring money in, but ultimately what we do is invaluable to our sector and to our beneficiaries and our service users. There's another reason why trustees need to be involved. It's just, it's part of your kind of requirements. I'm not going to read through this stuff. It's there. I don't need to regurgitate stuff that we know that the Charity Commission, the governance code are all saying. It's in black and white. And if they don't have time to read the black and white, I've even given you the quick YouTube link directly to the Essential Trustee Guide that points that you've got to be responsible for the resources of the organisation. So you have to play a role in fundraising. There's even a guide, and the guide has everything in there. It's got all the stuff they need: planning effectively, supervising your fundraisers, protecting your charity's reputation, money and assets, following on fundraising laws and regulations, being accountable, how fundraising is regulated. It's all there for them. Everything's there. So I'm not going to go into that detail. It's there. I'm more about understanding, learning from others to see why we should have it in the way in which we work. Are they getting involved? So actually, I did a little poll earlier. Let's just see. I'm going to take a temperature of the room, and I want to get a feel for. This is a statement. My board is really engaged, supportive, and hands-on with our charity's income generation. Do you completely agree with that? Do you agree with that? Do you disagree with that? Or do you totally disagree with that? And as you can see, I didn't let you get away with, I'm not sure either way. I'm really asking you to give me an answer. Oh, I'm being slightly pleasantly surprised here at the moment. Okay. No. Okay. Give you a few more seconds to respond. I'll give you a minute in total to respond. Okay, last few seconds. Well, I've got to say, maybe I'm just preaching to the converted. I thought that this response would be a bigger gap, but hey, right, let me end the poll. Let me share those results with you. So as you can see, really pleasantly surprised to see that what's that, 58%, so more than half of you agree with that statement. I am so pleased. I'm like totally preaching to the converted here. And then there's the rest of you not agreeing so much. So well, hopefully what I'm sharing will either, for those that have a wonderful board, fantastic, here's just some more evidence and ideas around why they should continue to be wonderful. Big love to them. And hopefully for those that are struggling, this is helping maybe to fuel the energy to have those kind of conversations. And more importantly, what I do hope is, if we have some time at the end, is that there's a little bit of kind of convo going on at the end with those that are having really good examples and actually sharing them. So there's a bit at the end where I've got kind of my pin-ups, and I'd love for those that have said totally agree to so get ready for the latter part of this, just to type in some examples of how your board are being really engaged, supportive and hands-on. And that's really lovely to hear. Thank you very much. Okay, so for those of you that are saying no, why not? What is it? What, why do you think they're not? Any kind of thoughts? Or, again, put it in the chat function why you might think they are not invested or other reasons. I'm hoping in my mind that you're frantically tapping away in the chat function and not just ignoring me. Board may not know what the team are up to or what skills need to be called upon. Yes, very good. Good points there. Oh, lovely. They're coming in thick and fast. Thank you. Not sure the trustees have had the expectations set. Yep. We are all volunteers, so it's difficult for people to give as much time to looking into our charity's income stream and seeing what we can do. I can completely understand that because I chair SIDCN, which is a purely volunteer-led organisation. So I'm completely in the same kind of camp and space as you. So yeah, I can understand that as well. Oh, okay. Lacking in energy and also lacking in confidence in fundraising area. Also, fundraising team has not asked them to be involved or illustrated the benefits their involvement would bring. Cool, great, exactly. Yeah, some very common reflections there that you know that I have had experience of and completely understand. So cool, thank you. So as I said, I have these experiences, having worked with lots of different charities over the years. But again, I just wanted to do a little bit of that kind of research as well around it. And if you didn't know already, there are 4 common reasons why people don't get involved. By the power of Google. Thank you very much. And those are. And if you want to know more about that, I will. I'll make sure I put the links into my slides later. But number 1, does not understand. So, and I think in the responses I've had here, I think you can probably see, which one of these 4 that we're touching. So, perhaps the goal is vague. Perhaps we're being unclear about what the final outcome looks like. Maybe there aren't specific deadlines. Maybe somebody hasn't understood or they've understood it differently. So we're not being clear with the board as to what it is that we're asking them to do. Or we might be being clear, but we might not be setting kind of timeframes and deadlines around that as well. So kind of that whole kind of vagueness around, we want some help around fundraising. Okay, what's that look like? Does not know how. And that can also mean they kind of understood it differently. So maybe you asked for something, but actually what they heard and what they thought that was something, something different. Oh, I thought you just wanted me to review and make a suggestion, especially, you actually want me to go and send this to someone. So that kind of does not know how or has misunderstood what it is. Does not, cannot. So they have, and also things like, so does not know how can also include things like fear, lack of confidence, lack of skill, lack of past experience, which again was some examples that were shared here. Cannot or can't can be down to capacity, which has been, but it could also be about resources as well. So thinking about, okay, well, how can we enable that? How can we kind of create that capacity? And it may not be directed to them, but within that wider group. And 4th, does not want to. Okay, so we've always got that kind of does not want to, but actually, can we unpick does not want to? Does not want to be that they're not motivated to. And if they're not motivated to, is that because they don't understand the consequences of fundraising or income generation or bringing income into the organisation has? They truly understand the implications of that. And also does not want to could be that they maybe don't understand that they ultimately will be held accountable for this, and that actually they've got, they have a role to play. It's very clear within, I said, some of the the Charity Commission guidance as well. So does not want to, might need to be unpicked a bit. I'm guessing there'll always be just some people that just don't want to, and that's a whole different conversation around their role within the organization. But yes, by unpicking does not want to, it could be about what's their motivations, and do they understand the impact and the implications that has. And also in a positive way, do they understand that actually, if you shared that, and even if one person gave £10, that's £10 more than we had yesterday, that's £10 plenty of unrestricted income, and that might enable us to give a 15-minute advice session to one of our beneficiaries. I don't know, but just thinking about kind of the demonstrating that. So what can we do? Can we start to give them the numbers, the metrics, to show them where the tensions are? Do we have that fundraising strategy? Is it clear? Do they understand it? Is it in a format that's easily readable for them to understand, and therefore for you to ask for help? Can we show them what they could do? Can we say, actually, what we'd like to do is we'd like to do a network mapping activity as a group to understand, do we have any potential warm contacts with people, to maybe just even amplify what we're doing for them to share within their wider networks. It doesn't necessarily have to be a specific ask, or maybe it is, but actually can we show them? Can we we might maybe not necessarily expect them to write the ask, but let's tailor some wording and give it to them to be able to make those asks to maybe their networks and contacts. So how can we show them how to do it? If they cannot, then do we need to think about, how do we ask for more help? How do we work together to ask for wider help? Are there volunteers? Do we need to create more opportunities for other people to get involved and support our income generation, business development, fundraising efforts? And 4, does not want to, I think, as I said, think about the understanding the motivations and start to unpick it, but also just share this slide deck. I don't know whether it'll be helpful, particularly the slides prior to this, demonstrating, how and why different organizations do this stuff, and then the impact it has on their organizations. And if that doesn't work, then obviously making clear what the Charity Commission expects them to do as well. Cool. Okay. One of the things that I quite like, and I'm a bit of a big advocate for, is that can help this space, is thinking about fundraising committee. And maybe this is something that you've already got. I would say, anecdotally, from probably the 10 organizations that I've worked for, the last 10 organizations that I've supported and worked for, I would say 1.5 had a fundraising committee. And it was something that I mentioned every time. What's the board doing? Have you got a fundraising committee? Are they setting aside time specifically just to think about income generation? Maybe change the word if fundraising scares people. Income generation for the organisation committee. I don't know. But yeah, so I'm a big fan. Why am I a big fan of fundraising committee? Well, I will tell you why. And if you have got a fundraising committee, again, if we're with the chat function, maybe help me improve my metrics of organizations that, in my experience, in the last probably year or so, haven't had one. Why am I a big fan of fundraising committee? Well, anecdotal research suggests that charities with fundraising committees tend to be more successful in their fundraising efforts. Expertise and focus. So, fundraising requires knowledge and skills, and by creating this fundraising committee, you can start to assemble those individuals, that experience, that expertise in, fundraising, developing your fundraising strategy. How do we steward and cultivate our donors and supporters? How do we write a trust and foundation application, and other fundraising activities, events, community engagement, individual givers, corporate. And this committee can solely focus on developing and implementing that fundraising initiative, which allows, I guess, the rest of the time the board has to look at their core responsibilities of governance and oversight, but also gives them that headspace and the time to put that hat on to look at fundraising. So I think one of the examples is around being 100% volunteer led. One of the things that I'm introducing into my board is that we're going to have, a fundraising committee. Actually, tomorrow is our first kind of meeting on this. So, giving ourselves a bit of time, is extraordinary meetings to kind of look and focus on this. Expanding networks. So different people, different members of the board will have different backgrounds, different networks, different connections, and these are potential opportunities to engage with supporters, whether they be donors, or maybe they know people in the business world. Maybe can we leverage those? Can we leverage those networks? And that's going to enable us to kind of expand our reach and the impact of our income generation fundraising efforts. With a dedicated fundraising committee, trustees can tap into the collective power of those committee members, the connections, the relationships, which is likely to increase things like donations and support. And that's why the committee doesn't have to be just made up of the board, but can you bring, and actually I would say my experience of the boards that are more successful are where they bring in others, key volunteers. I mean, at one organisation I worked with a few years ago, they had a volunteer who was an large charity fundraiser, and he was like, oh yeah, I'll be on your, and they weren't a trustee, but they're a volunteer on the ground doing some support, and they're like, oh yeah, I'll get involved in that. I was like, if you don't ask, you don't know what's there within your gift to use. So you can bring others onto this committee or board, whatever you want to call it. Accountability and oversight. So establishing that fundraising, a committee can provide that accountability and oversight. So they're responsible for kind of developing those fundraising plans, helping to set achievable goals, seeing how it's doing, but also seeing where the tensions are, particularly, in the current climate that we're in, actually, do we need to develop and reconsider, some of our plans around our fundraising? It reduces the burden on one individual, which is absolutely a huge focus. I mean, you only have to, if anybody follows Vic, but you only have to see and hear, and I have similar experiences of the level of burnout and distress that's happening within senior charity leaders and fundraisers or sole fundraisers. Fundraising is time consuming and demanding activity. By, kind of delegating it to this wider team, it starts to help to reduce the overwhelm that we give people, overstretching, and I think and stretching people too thin, and I think having a bit of a hand in an experience makes people appreciate maybe what people are asking them to do. And actually what I have seen is that when fundraising committees come together, it is usually often a route to possibly even the first fundraiser. Maybe just be part-time, or maybe it's just agreeing to bring somebody in for half a day a month or whatever it is. It's been a route to that investment to support the fundraising efforts. It's suddenly got up on that radar. Fresh perspectives and innovation. If you bring together a whole host of different people with different diverse backgrounds, you're going to get fresh perspectives around the table. It's going to foster innovation. It's going to get people to think out the box. It's going to get people to think creatively and to feel free. And actually, I think it's going to enjoy, let's do something completely and utterly different. I remember doing a facilitation once with a group of people who were all like this, because they heard the word fundraising. But by the end of it, they were like, we could do this and we could do that. And how about this? And I've got all these ideas. And like, okay, that's great. Now we need to think about focusing that and energy. But yeah, it brought some real joy to people in the room who came in with their arms crossed, looking very miserable. And stewardship, it means that everybody understands that it's really important to build and maintain those relationships with our supporters and our donors, and stewardship of that and those relationships is really important, and that everybody can get involved in that in some way. And I think that's absolutely critical. So they're kind of like some of my reasons behind the beauty of a fundraising committee. And here, end of the sermon. How we're doing? Oh, it's 1:15. Right. So as I promised, I got me some pinups. So for those of you, what was it? 58% of you that said that you've got very supportive and engaging boards. This is your time in the chat function to share your pinups whilst I share my pinups. Okay, so my trusty pinups. So this was from a little bit of just doing some research, from asking some of the groups that I'm in, and some experiences. So I'll there's a few images here which obviously you can look at, but let me kind of talk you through some of these pinups. So one of them is a board, and I'll kind of read you what the senior charity leader said to me. We have a board where a culture is give, get, or get off. Ooh. Most do both, or the first two. We have this organization has a bigger sister charity. So they're a small charity here. They have a bigger organization. And so that culture, and actually that organization is based in the US. So actually US is probably a good example of that fundraising culture kind of being, permeated throughout the whole organization. They talk about we had an event last night that got us an Indian cricket legend and sponsorship to host it at the Lords, and then filled the room with about 100 major donor prospects. We're a hugely privileged position, but it's a joy to work with them. This is to work with the board. So actually, this is an opportunity for the whole board to come together. So every year they do something as a board to help generate income for their organisation. Yeah, so so it's just one example of how we can start to get that board involved as well. Another, I tell you what was really nice to hear at the end of this was that there was a real link and distinction from that board taking this type of activity on an annual basis, and that actually this organisation has grown over the last 5 years from what we would call a small to now kind of tipping into that medium large organization. Not saying that it all came from the board, but we look back at the stuff I've shared earlier, there is clear links between governance that helps to drive income generation, that helps to then drive that organization. In here there's Mums in Need, Educate, Safe Haven. We've got some really nice examples here of their trustees getting involved, whether it be through community fundraising, doing events, bike rides, making flower bouquets from their allotment. I mean, there's a whole host of things that people are doing as well, and some really nice ways in which these organizations have helped to kind of steward. Another organization here, we're working hard to have more meaningful conversations with all our trustees to support the fundraising process, asking them to contribute with their specific skill set. Not everyone might be suited to supporting or a sporting challenge, or doing a corporate pitch, but perhaps they can play a part in the thanking and the stewardship process, or helping with prospect research. So we've created some tools such like a pledge form, network mapping exercise, which I mentioned earlier, to support these conversations and check-ins. But again, they had some really inspiring trustees, and another one here is again another example, compelling argument. If we're overarching, this is actually from a chair of another charity. He believed, so it's a compelling argument that fundraising, income generation very much starts at the top within the board. If we're overarching on finances, then we need to have an operational understanding of how money comes in, and understand that it's hard. In the first year, we expect trustees to do some sort of fundraising support work. We've done engagement opportunities, so more of an ask than just kind of a nudge and some gentle nudges and pushes, rather than asking them to we hold events and ask them to share with their networks, or being if there's a campaign, we might write some wording, some soft ask wording, and ask them to share that with 10 of their contacts. So really helping them, giving them the skills and tools to do that. I'm still waiting for some more pinups here. That 58% that told me they had some good examples. We've got meet the team events as well, so shift in power. So throughout the year we get trustees to bring people with them. So that's another way. So helping them to, when they've got people that say, oh, we know that you, so this is an example, a soft opportunity. Hey friend, I know you know that I love my charity and the work we're doing. I just wanted to share this invite we're doing, a Meet the Team event that you might just want to come and listen and hear a bit more about the organisation that I'm supporting. There's no ask, there's no bring your purse or your wallet or whatever, bring your card, but just some soft ways. And that is being shared by the whole of the board. And that's really helped for them to set up things like, regular givers. And also in this instance, the chair said, actually, I just became a regular giver and I set up a legacy, because it was just a really good way of demonstrating, like, this is how we're going to do it. This is how it will work. And, sharing that with the board. Oh, gosh. Okay. So, lovely. In day job, one of our advocacy partners who got some great results working with our team actually did some fundraising off her own back to raise funds for Century Bags for others. Great. Bringing their funding, contacts, events, advocacy, and joining funder meetings. Thank you very much all for sharing. Yeah. So even just attending meetings, contacts, meeting the team. Brilliant. Thank you. So I've talked about, okay, it's a no-brainer, why they might not engage, what we can do to help them. I've shown you some pin-ups, and I think that the overarching piece for me here, and I think was alluded to very much in that very early piece, was around culture, about creating a fundraising culture within an organisation. And that, if you look at that very first quote that I lifted from the guidance, it's very much everybody has to play a part, and for that to happen, we need to create the right culture. It's essential for long-term fundraising. It's successful for generating income, I think, for any initiatives. So what are some reasons for creating a fundraising culture? Building a fundraising culture demonstrates that the organization's commitment to its mission and its recognition that financial resources are critical in achieving those goals. So we all want to do this, we need to bring in some of this. It sends a clear message to staff, to volunteers, to stakeholders that fundraising, income generation is a priority and an integral part of the organization's overall strategy. And how many people have written trust and foundations applications and seen, how is your organizational financial sustainable? Well, we've got a great fundraising culture because we do X, Y, and Z. Extending fundraising responsibilities. So when fundraising becomes ingrained in the culture, it expands the responsibility of fundraising beyond just those dedicated staff, if you have them, and more often than not within a small context, it's your senior charity leader. It encourages all members of the organization, again, volunteers, members, staff, board, to get actively involved and participate in the fundraising efforts. And the collective involvement broadens the network of potential supporters and donors. And again, that's going to enhance your fundraising capacity. Engaging and retaining donors. Again, the culture is going to foster a proactive approach to that donor engagement and stewardship. And again, that's going to encourage the organization to build those meaningful relationships with the donors and focusing on long-term rather than those one-off kind of transactions. And donors who feel connected to your organization's mission and values are going to become more loyal supporters and again going to provide more ongoing contributions. It encourages exploration of new income streams. So again, if you've got a fundraising culture, that can help with things like diversifying the organization's fundraising stream, because we're not afraid of it. We're like, oh, this is like a new way we can do and bring joy into our organization, or we're bringing income in, because ultimately this is going to have a huge impact on our being able to deliver our goals and mission. Instead of relying heavily on one major donor or one grant funder, or, you know, it's about, you know, it's, you know, again, the culture of fundraising can encourage that exploration of multiple revenue streams and different ways of engaging, from individual and corporate events, partnerships. Okay, so all going to help. Innovation and creativity, which I kind of alluded to earlier about the committee. You know, if you create a culture of fundraising and joy in that fundraising, and then that will automatically bring that environment of innovative and creative, and you know, and it's going to generate those feels, and therefore new ideas and more thinking out the box and more experimentation. And, you know, and it doesn't matter, we try something, oh, it didn't work so well, okay, well, let's try something else, or we need to tweak it here and there to make it work better next time. It will also make you more fleet of foot for emerging trends, and ultimately, you know, stay ahead of the game and maximize, you know, your fundraising potential. We don't have a magic tree that we can go and shake and the money falls out. Well, actually, if you have one, please let me know, because be great. And resilience, as I said before, that kind of, you know, if we have all these things in the culture, then if we have a robust culture, then it's going to enhance the organization's ability to deal with difficult times, to be more resilient in times of economic uncertainty and when external challenges happen. By cultivating that kind of diverse fundraising base, having a strong network of supporters, then the organization is going to be able to navigate these challenges and these financial fluctuations better and adapt to those circumstances. Yeah, so there you go. That's my reasons behind why having that fundraising culture is super important. Ooh, 3 minutes. So, in a nutshell, in summary, the best fundraising teams are not just about individual fundraisers. I'm even going as far as say fact, but a collective force of a culture that embraces fundraising. The purpose of it, thinks about the talent, enables people to learn, develop new skills. It needs that leadership, that governance, that collaboration. It uses data to help make those decisions, and it makes them resilient and adaptable to those difficult times. I wish you, and I send you energy that enables you to create that kind of fundraising culture. And it's really great to hear that actually it sounds like maybe 58% of you are already there or on your journey. And that's going to unleash the full potential of fundraising, income generation, business development, whatever you call it, which is going to transform your organizations and allow you to, you know, make that lasting impact on the activities, on the mission that you are on, achieving that vision that you're trying to achieve. So if we do all that, I hope it's mission accomplished. So that's the end of my little soapbox. I hope that has, I guess, probably more importantly, I hope it's given you maybe reassurance. I should think that I haven't told you anything that you didn't already know, but it's just nice hearing it from somebody else. No problem. Yeah, I know that there's a mix, and the invite was for 1:30, but the advert said 1:45, so I'm happy to kind of hover for the next kind of, you know, 5-10 minutes. So if you need to go, please do. And apologies again for the whole registration thing. Apologies. But yes, if there are any other questions or any thoughts and reflections, then please do share. But any tips on how to? Oh, Vicky, so were you if you want to unmute, you're more than welcome to. And we've got a room for, like, we've got 58% of people on here all doing good stuff, so it'd be really good to hear kind of some of their reflections as well. So Vicky, if you wanted to unmute and have a little. Hiya.
Hi. We've got a board of 11 now, 6 of whom are long serving, relatively inactive is unfair, but they're not active in the fundraising area. They've got their little niche, they've got their comfort area. We've got 5 new members of the board who have literally just attended their first meeting, which is really exciting because they come with a load of enthusiasm, and we're having to keep them on the leash a bit because it's all going a bit crazy. But if you've got any tips as to how we kind of harness that new energy and this new sort of moment of change in our organisation to bring along the 6 existing members of the board who are used to doing things in the old way, if you've got any tips, that would be really handy. Not expecting you to have all the answers or anything, but any tips would be really useful.
So I guess my first thing is, so do you have you got a written like fundraising strategy? And this doesn't need to be War and Peace. Actually, I don't believe in War and Peace fundraising strategies, but just a really simple kind of, this is what we want to achieve this year, and this is how we think we're going to achieve it.
Yes, we do.
So you got that. So they understand the what's the word? The pin the map. So they know what.
Probably. So I should also add, I'm 8 weeks into my role as fundraising manager. So this is my first visibility of the board and how it operates. So I don't know how visible that strategy has been to them, if I'm honest.
Okay.
I mean, we work with it.
Yeah.
Don't know. And we've got a new CEO as well, who's only 6 months in post. So you can see there's a lot of change, and I'm really keen to take that opportunity to like really get going on fundraising in a more collaborative way.
Yeah. Well, I think definitely having an opportunity to set some time aside to be able to explain to them, like to actually explain to them the fundraising strategy. Yeah. And also pepper it with some, to give them some understanding of what it takes, so you might say, well, we want to get some corporate sponsors. And what that means is this. And I guess don't assume that people know. I think sometimes we can go into things and assume that, especially with funding, like I'm the same, I do it, and assume people know what I'm talking about, and then actually they have no idea. So actually really properly set aside some time to talk them through the fundraising strategy and what it means. And I mean, even go back to basics, bring up the donor pyramid and explain to them the importance of, stewardship and how that can move people up the donor pyramid, and why you've got some events and fundraising in there, because that might lead to some regular donors, that might lead to some long-time donors, and that might lead to legacies. So I think, really, give them the kind of the understanding that when you think about why people don't get involved, because maybe they just don't understand. So then make it really clear what the goals are. As I said, I'm a really big fan of a fundraising committee, and actually if you've got some really exciting 6 new people, is an opportunity to galvanize some of that or capitalize on some of that with some bringing on some of the existing established board members together. I mean, even a budding, you might say, well, actually, can we get one of your really super keen jelly beans and then somebody who's been established and buddy them up, and they help to kind of create this small committee. And you might just say, we're going to do it on a one-off. We're just going to do it for a one-off event this year. But from that they might, well, actually, you know what? 2023 was really good because that one-off event where you two budded and brought other people in to support this event. So now let's think about, can we continue to have this on a more regular basis? So it could be slowly in a way. And things like network mapping, I think, are a really great activity to do to kind of get people, into understand. So like making them understand like network mapping. And the other thing for network mapping is being really clear around what it actually means. It doesn't mean we're going to just suddenly start contact people that you say that is not what it's about. It's because everything is about kind of warm connection and relationships. What we understand is what the art of the possible is, and then we're going to kind of hone down as to how we might do that, and then we'll have further conversations about how that might happen. So I think it's doing that. I mean, you can go as far as looking at kind of a specific skills analysis of the board, like what are their skills, and therefore you could possibly preempt things like actually somebody has absolutely no tangible fundraising experience whatsoever, although to be fair, it's quite rare that someone hasn't had some experience, and then you can maybe do that more slowly with certain people. So they may be that actually they're more the stewardship side of fundraising. Actually, could you just write a little note on a card for us to give to X supporter or X funder, and do it that way? So I know it can take time, and I know bedding these things in can take time. And I guess what my kind of motivation for you would be is, but in 18 months' time, hopefully life would be less complex because you've already taken on that journey. You've helped to develop them, and then they're off and running. Yeah, so there would be kind of some of the things that I would consider. I think there's just some points in the chat as well that people have said. I'm trustee that come in with lots of ideas for both structure and fundraising. I see a lot of pushback from the existing similar thing. I include them in the everything, and now we have a system as much as possible. Use technology. We have committees for each area. Oh, there you go. Great. A really good example. Stella, do you want to share any more any of that for Vicky? And some things you did?
If you wish me to.
Yeah,
no
go on,
Stella. So I come from a sales and marketing background, so business development director for a software company. So as a trustee, they brought me in because they desperately needed fresh blood. It had been static, I suppose, for about 4 or 5 years, but the charity had grown massively, and it's the Sea Pool in Cornwall. So when I joined, there was we don't do it that way. Nah, we've never done it that way. And so now we've really embraced Teams, Microsoft 360. I've trained them all up on it. I'm looking at 2 screens here, so I'll put you across there. So yeah, and we've systemized everything. So I brought all of these, they were all using WhatsApp and different groups and different communities. So we've put everything into one place. So we've got SharePoint, and also as well, we've got subcommittees. So we've got a merchandise committee, we've got a fundraising committee, we've got a pool management committee, and each trustee has to champion that. So they make the decisions what's happening around that committee as well. And that's working really, really well. And we're really lucky because as trustees, we all get involved. I'm on this now. So, from that perspective, but I think the key thing is, and, it's nearly a mistake I made, was I didn't bring along the old trustees with me at the initial stages. It's to bring them with you and go, okay, this is why that we need to do this.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that, Stella.
Yeah, thank you to both of you. Really helpful and interesting food for thought.
Cool. Any other final comments or thoughts before we finish? Okay, well, thank you very much for listening, and yeah, as I said, I wish you all much luck. There are some really good groups as well, like Facebook groups, like the fundraising Facebook group, and that is a really good place to kind of share and get ideas and let off some steam sometimes as well. But yeah, I hope it's and I said there's going to be a recording of this. I think it would be nice to maybe make this mandatory for trustees to watch. I'm joking. But yeah, good luck, and and happy rest of Small Charities Week. Yeah, slides will be made available, I believe, and the recording as well.